Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Sam Levine, as always, and today we're going to be talking about the two Monday Night Football games that we had yesterday. Washington football team versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then, of course, the Buffalo Bills versus the San Francisco 49ers. So let's kick it off with the first game of the two, Washington football team versus the Steelers. The 11-1 Steelers now. They lost. The Steelers lost 23-17. Washington came out on top via two late field goals. Those were the big thing that pushed the football team over the hump and over the Steelers. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So my straight-up reactions to that game was the Steelers didn't play good enough football in the second half. They only scored 3 points in the entire second half. And also, there were a lot of drop passes over the middle. Eric Ebron had 3 drop passes throughout that entire game. He has to be better. That is unacceptable. Deontay Johnson also had 2 dropped passes during that second half. That's 5 drop passes right there. That's unacceptable. A team of their caliber cannot be making mistakes like that often. It's unacceptable, especially when you're playing a team that's 4-7 going into that game. That's not okay. In addition, their number one defense, they have the best defense in the league, but they didn't look like it last night. They allowed up 20 points in the second half, 20, to a team that only scored 3 in the first half. They really let it up a big comeback. And to even add insult to injury, Washington didn't have Antonio Gibson out there, and Terry McLaurin didn't get a single reception in the second half. So they didn't have their two best. There was no production from their 2 best players, and they still scored 20 points. The Steelers still let them score 20 points. The Steelers let Logan Thomas, J.D. McKissick, and Cam Sims walk all over them, and I'd be very surprised if the majority of the viewers here knew who all 3 of those players were. I bet you that most of you don't. You don't know them for a reason. They aren't the best players in the world. Logan Thomas has stepped up this year. J.D. McKissick is a decent pass-catching running back. Cam Sims stepping up a little bit, but they aren't star players. And they walked all over that Steelers defense. Sims and Thomas both had north of 90 yards on the game, and McKissick had 10 catches for 70 yards. 10 catches. Really, you're going to let a running back get 10 catches? Okay. Okay. At some point, TJ Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick, or some star defensive player, they have them for miles. They have star players on that defense for miles. At some point, one of those guys has to step up, make a big-time play, and shut down the offense and stop them from scoring. That's what top defenses do. That is not what the Steelers did last night. I didn't see a strong performance from their defense whatsoever last night. Really not impressed. So now let's move on to what I learned from that game. 4 things that I wrote down, 2 per team, that I really took away from that game. Number 1, Pittsburgh's offense is going to struggle against very good defenses. They were very bad last night, but they were also bad against the Baltimore Ravens last week, and despite Baltimore's offensive issues, their defense still is a very good unit. There's no denying they have a good defense, and the Steelers struggled to score points against them. The Steelers have only scored 30 points in the last 2 games against the Ravens and the football team combined. That's not acceptable. I keep saying that, but really these last 2 performances have been not good for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know they beat the Ravens, but still not a good performance against Baltimore. Not one that you're looking for from the team that is claiming to be the best in the NFL. So yeah, that's my statement. That's what I've taken away, especially from not only from this game, but from the last 2 weeks. Really, in this Washington game, really cemented it for me that they're going to have their struggles against really good defenses. It's just how it is. Number 2, the Washington defense is for real. Now, this is kind of implied with number 1, but it's worth mentioning. The Steelers' offense has shown they can be very explosive at times this season. even if it is against not the best defenses. But Washington shut them down last night. Montez Sweat and Chase Young especially really made an impact. Sweat had a couple really good quarterback pressures. He also had a pass deflection that led to an interception, so that's a great play. Chase Young, huge stop on fourth and goal earlier in the game to give the ball back to Washington and shut away the Pittsburgh Steelers offense from getting a touchdown on the goal line. Really big impact from these two guys, and these two young defensive ends both have a very bright future in the NFL. They've shown a lot of potential, and they've shown that they can be really, really good players consistently, especially here in year 2 for Montez Sweat, and of course Chase Young. It's just his rookie year, but he's looked phenomenal as well. This defensive unit made some huge stops, including that one on fourth and 1 later in the game, like really late in the game, late fourth quarter, when the Steelers had it on the Washington side of the football. They decided to go for it, and Washington stopped them, got the ball right back to their offense, went down and got a field goal. That basically put the game away in favor of Washington. So that defense is for real. If they can get a quarterback in this upcoming draft, I'm telling you, this team is good. This team is going to be good because they have McLaurin, Gibson, and their defense is very good. They just need a leader at that quarterback position. Number 3, speaking of McLaurin and Gibson, Washington can win without Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson. They don't need those guys to win. In this game, McLaurin and Gibson combined for only 4 touches for 28 total yards. That is it. And all of those stats came in the first half. But like I said before, Sims and Thomas especially combined for over 180 yards on the game. They stepped up huge for this team. Sims had a huge one-handed catch on third down to move the chains for Washington. He really stepped up, especially in that fourth quarter and in that third quarter, that second half as a whole. And Thomas was fantastic all throughout the game. If those two guys can consistently play well and play in good complementary roles to Gibson and McLaurin, because McLaurin and Gibson are still the stars of that offense, but if those guys can play complementary football to the 2 stars on that offense, I mean, the offense, then this team is just getting better, and that's more young guys stepping up for this team, more potential, and even more of a bright future than this team, than I think this team already has, because I'm a big fan of this team at this point in the year. I think they're doing some really good things down in the nation's capital. And finally, the 4th takeaway is going to be about Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's offense, they need to run the ball to win games. The offense only ran the ball 14 times in that game. They really got away from it, and I don't really know why, because they were never down in that game until late in the fourth quarter, and usually you see teams go away from the running game when they get down, but Pittsburgh didn't get down, really, so I don't understand that. They got only 21 yards off of those 14 rushes, so not even averaging 2 yards per carry. That needs to change. They really had zero running game. I mean, there was no production from the running backs whatsoever. The Steelers are, we know who the Steelers are. They are a physical football team. That's who they are. They pound the ball, really good defenses. That's how they win games. And they didn't win yesterday. They didn't run the ball. I'm seeing a parallel here. Benny Snell, he's played good games this year, and I don't think it was his fault that he didn't show up last night. I just don't think they really gave him a chance. He had under 10 carries last night. I mean, it was not going well for him. They didn't persist with the running game. They just gave up on it and had Ben Roethlisberger throw the ball 53 times, which, yes, he is still a very good quarterback and can get it done at a high level, but I mean, this offense, that's not how this team works. That isn't how the Steelers come out victorious at the end of the 60-minute playing time period. They run the ball, play good defense, eat clock, win the time of possession game. They need to get back to that in the coming weeks, and they need to get back to that if they want to make a deep playoff run. So those are my takeaways for the Steelers-Washington game. Now going on to the later game, Buffalo Bills versus the San Francisco 49ers. My initial reaction, Josh Allen is that dude now. He has really, more than earlier in this season, taken his game to the next level, and that is saying something, because early in the season he was red hot. Going up against a great 49ers defense, I really expected to struggle for him to struggle a little bit, and I actually picked the 49ers to win. On last week's edition of the First and Goal podcast, I picked San Francisco as one of my upsets. But yeah, no, he was far from struggling at any moment in that game. He went 32 of 40, only 8 incompletions on 40 pass attempts, 375 plus yards, and 4 touchdown passes, no interceptions, no turnovers. Against that defense, last week held Jared Goff to 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions and a QBR of only 10. Just like I said, just a week ago. And Josh Allen, he's an elite quarterback now. I mean, you look at this performance, you look at the Seahawks performance, 2 great games, and you actually watch those games, the throws that he makes, the athleticism that he has on each and every play. He's there. He's taken that next step. He's an elite quarterback. Now, 4 things that I learned from this game, 2 each. Number 1, okay. Even though the San Francisco 49ers lost, one of the biggest things that I saw in this game is they have a great young wide receiver duo. Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel are both phenomenal players with really bright futures. Samuel had over 130 yards in that Rams game just a week ago, and in this one he had 73 yards, averaging over 100 yards per game. That's incredible. Really, really good stuff from him, and he's playing with Nick Mullins at quarterback. And then Brandon Ayuk, in his first game back this week, he totaled 5 receptions, 95 yards, and 1 touchdown. And both of these guys are really complete receivers as well. Very good route running, can run all the routes in the route tree. Really good speed as well. They have a very good mix of route running and speed. You like to see that in modern-day wide receivers. And Ayuk and Samuel complement each other. It's not like one guy dominates one game, then the other dominates the next. No, we saw in this game, Samuel had 73 yards, and Ayuk had 95. So they both work really well together, can both play inside and outside the slot. Very bright future for these 2 players. I'm a big fan of them, and the 49ers have 2 very, very talented players. Number 2, the Buffalo Bills passing game is elite. And no, I do not just mean Josh Allen. By this statement, I actually mean more the wide receivers. They have a lot of weapons that can get the job done at a elite level. Cole Beasley may be the best slot wide receiver in the NFL. He can run all the routes and does them with extreme proficiency. He gets in and out of his cuts so fast and presents himself to the quarterback really, really quickly. He is such a quarterback-friendly player. It's crazy. He has helped. He may be the player that has helped Josh Allen develop the most out of any other player on that offense. Really, really good. And then we already know what Stephon Diggs can do for you. He's a top 3 wide receiver this year in the NFL. He's really emerged as an elite wide receiver 1. With the Vikings, he was always a very good player. He was never that bona fide number 1 wide receiver, though. This year, he's taken his game to the next level and proved he is that player. And then you mix those 2 players in with John Brown, who was out last night, but he's a speedster. Gabriel Davis, a rookie that's really playing well, playing above expectations. He's over 400 receiving yards this year. Then Isaiah McKenzie, the kind of jet sweep, trick play kind of guy. He gets some touches too, and he makes an impact. He had 31 yards last night and a touchdown. Yeah, so this passing game is elite. I really like what they have with those wide receivers, and again, like I said, how Allen has emerged as a top quarterback in the NFL. Really, really good stuff from that offense. Number 3, the Bills' defense can show up when they need to. This defense actually played well against the 49ers. They held San Francisco to only 86 rushing yards, and we know how vital that running game is to the San Francisco offense. It's how that offense works, really. I mean, it's just the bottom line. They also picked off Mullins twice, which is great. You love to see turnovers from defenses. The picks also came in 2 crucial drives, both under 20 minutes to go in the game. One of the picks came when the 49ers were inside the Bills' 5-yard line, and it came on a 3rd down. 3rd and goal, Trey White picked off Nick Mullins. I mean, that's great. That's great for that defense, wiping away at least 3 points, but also, I mean, a potential touchdown. And if you add just one touchdown to their total score, you get 31. That's only 3 points away from the Bills. And you take away these 2 interceptions late in the game. I mean, the San Francisco has a very good opportunity to come away with this game, but the defense stepped up. They did not let Nick Mullins go down and walk all over them. Nope, the defense made the plays when they needed to, and that's what you really look for with defenses now. They don't need to be exceptional. They don't need to get 5 sacks a game and an interception, but you want them to make plays when they are asked to. You want them to step up when the lights are on, and that's what the Bills defense did in this game. And finally, number 4, San Francisco will not win when leaning on the passing game. Nick Mullins and also Jimmy Garoppolo, for that matter, aren't good enough to push their team over the hump and just win. They don't have that Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes ability to just get the win. We saw that in this game. The running game couldn't get going whatsoever. They needed Mostert to be making big plays, or they need Mostert to be making big plays and to be very, very consistent to get the win. That didn't happen last night. This is a team that runs down the clock, runs the ball really efficiently, gets big plays through the running game, thrives off of the play action, and really makes their money in the passing game through the play action because they can set up the running game so efficiently. And when the running game isn't working to their advantage, this is what we see. We see losses where they are clearly outplayed. That's what happened last night. That's just how it is. Raheem Mostert only had 9 carries. They didn't even give him a chance. And then Jeff Wilson Jr., the backup, who also normally gets a fair amount of touches, only got 7 carries. So it's not like they were even giving him more touches than Mostert at all. I mean, they combined for 18 touches. Yeah, 18 carries, 18 rushing attempts. The 49ers won't win with their passing game. That's just not the kind of team that they are. They need to realize that, because you need to focus in on what you're good at and what you do well and do that. You need to do that until you can't anymore, because that is how you win football games. Well, thank you for joining me today on episode 8 of First and Goal. Please check out the website, firstandgoalfootballtalk.com, to see all of my articles that I post. Check out the First and Goal with Sam Levine show wherever you get your podcast, and stay up to date on everything that I post. To do that, follow the Twitter, First and Goal FB. That's the handle on Twitter. That's a wrap for this episode. Once again, like and subscribe if you are new. Share it with a friend if you enjoyed. And we'll see you next time on First and Goal.